it's a bad mental state, but not in the same way that you're saying it's a bad mental state. I do not, just to be clear, I do not agree with you. I do not want to be on your side. I am on the other side. We cannot have common ground. We might say the same thing, but it's not the same thing. That's pretty much what he just said.
Subscribe to this channel. In case you are watching this channel and have not subscribed.
What's the solution for men and women's sports, male and female sports, which has always been separated by biology? It cannot be changed no matter how many hormones you take. What's the solution? Continue going with what we have done to ensure the safety and equal opportunity of women. That's why Title IX exists. Right. Or upend all of it so that we don't hurt some people's feelings.
Well, no, it's not just black. It shouldn't be so black and white. It shouldn't just be this or that.
Then what is a solution?
A solution, have a trans league. First of all, have a trans league, have more
I agree with that.
Divisions where more people can compete. Fuck it. Why don't we just have an augmented league where you can have robot legs? You know, let's just see how far we can push the human body.
We actually do. That was a guy who had at the South African who had no legs and he had those bent back paper clips that he ran on.
Olympics.
And then he killed his girlfriend.
Whoa, I must not be thinking of the same guy. What? I was thinking of the guy that was a paraplegic. I think that's what you call it when you don't got legs. Yeah, paraplegic. Where he had the things and he was like fast as shit and he ended up winning, but the commission said that he wasn't allowed to compete because he had an advantage because his legs like weighed like a fraction of what a regular legs weighed, so he was able to run faster. I can't really remember. I'll put it up whenever I edit it. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about though.
Yikes. Well, I mean, you know, I think.
You don't remember that story?
I don't remember that story. I don't know. But
he was running around. It looked like he was from that Sector 9 movie, like those prawn. He was running around these little like bent back metal paper clips, and then people were complaining that he had an unfair advantage, and they're like, well, he doesn't have any legs. And it's like, well, yeah, but those are basically mechanical at that point.
But then also, if he wanted to compete, how?
So we are. When did he kill his wife?
Could he there's no mechanical leg league to compete. You
don't get to.
That's kind of lame. I just think I think that's lame to the sport. That's lame to the activity. That does a disservice to people who want to participate in these.
I want to set a bench press record.
I mean, if you want to, you could start your own league. Like, there's nothing stopping you from starting your own league. There's a whole wiffle ball league where they don't even make money. They travel to states and they play wiffle balls together. There's like 10 people in the whole league, and they're like honestly really good at it. I watched a Mark Rober video about it. And they're honestly really good about it, but they don't make no money. But it's their league. Like, they started it. You can do that with any other thing. Like, just don't expect to get paid from it until it becomes profitable. Just like how women's sports isn't really profitable. The WNBA hasn't turned a profit since ever. They've been being subsidized from the NBA since they was created, and they still haven't turned a profit. I don't know. People have been talking about it a lot more since the Brittany Griner shit. So maybe they might start to where they can start making money on the shit. But even with that, I don't see it happening. I would never watch women's sports. I don't watch men's sports. So that's me. But I just don't see an appeal in women's sports whenever you can go watch something more competitive. But that's just me.
Can I do it with I want to set a world bench press record. Can I use a crane?
Well, it's not, I think you're going about the sport wrong if you're just trying to break a record, because there's a lot more involved in breaking records than. Not
to these women who are afforded scholarships and coaching jobs, right? We would have to acknowledge that's important. It's not fun to be an NCAA. It's not fun to be a silver medalist at the Olympics, like the lady who had to play second. It's a tough life.
Right.
And then you're ripping it from them because someone who was a middling to low-end male swimmer decided, I'm going to be a woman next year. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's looking out for the best interests of women. I don't think it's. You're talking so much about women, and you're talking so much about the rights of these people. But what about the trans people? Do they not also have rights? Are they not also humans that we don't have a right?
I mean, yeah.
I don't think that it's a right to compete. Specifically, that's what we're talking about.
If we're just talking about sports, yeah, it's a little unfair.
If they want to take a dump at a Target in a muumuu with some eye makeup, I don't care.
But it's the hatred with which you speak about them.
What hatred?
The way that you talk about them it's not respectful to them.
How have I spoken about them? That's disrespectful. I just don't think they should be allowed to beat up on women or beat women at sports.
No, that's fair, but is there not an underlying, what do you think about trans people as a group? Do you hate them? It sounds like
no.
I don't really.
Of course not. I don't hate them.
I don't really know you. But
how are you gonna keep saying it sounds like you hate them whenever he said plenty of times that he doesn't hate them?
It sounds
I don't
like
hate
you
them. No, I don't hate them at all. I feel sorry for many of them.
Right, yeah, same.
In what way do you feel sorry for them?
Well, I think that we're dealing with a demographic that, now we're getting off of the topic here, but I think we're dealing with a demographic that has a 19 times the suicide rate of the general population. It's a 42% attempted suicide rate. And I don't think that denying the realities, the constraints of biology and the human condition is helping them. I think that we're actually
hurting them.
Putting many of them, and especially when you involve hormone replacement therapy, and when we know what estrogen does to the male body, when we know what excess estrogen does to the female body, we are, in an attempt to coddle them, rather than seek
help,
assisting them, we're putting them into a shallow, young, cancerous grave.
I agree with that to a T, man.
So then do you think that transgender, or being trans, is a disease more than it is a lifestyle choice?
No, I don't think it's a disease. I think that you would have to look at a very, very strong, not only correlation, but causation, because you would look at both pre and post-op. The suicide rate doesn't improve.
Right.
The attempted suicide rate is about 42% pre-op.
I think it's people that are, I don't know if it's a mental condition or if it's a disease or what. How I describe it might fall into those categories, but I think it's just people that are very vulnerable. They want love, they want acceptance, they want attention. Like, they just want to be considered a normal person and to be considered, like, you know, average. I think a lot of people that go these routes typically aren't average. They are seeking validation from people, and the way that they can stand out and be seen is by going these routes. I think a lot of people in these that are trans fall into that category. And then there are some people that do it for clout and money and, you know, for like financial gain. But I think a majority of people that are trans do it because of emotional gain.
It's about 42% post-op. The mental health issues are through the roof. The regret upon transitioning, even though very few of them actually do go through with the bottom surgery, even hormone replacement therapy, is very, very high. So I think we have to look at that and say, okay, why is this happening in this community? And how do we actually more effectively address that than just say, however you identify, compete that way. And we used to say gender and sex were different, but now we'll allow them to be one and the same in sports. I don't think it's productive.
Yeah, and especially whenever it's people that are emotionally distraught, like they are seeking like something to make them feel better. And when you tell them that they can be something that they can never be, it's just making their situation worse. It's like you can lie to them all you want. You can put them in the delusional state as much as you want, but it still won't change the fact that they will not be what they're told that they are. And it would just make them even feel more lost. Like, it's like, I think it's just fucked all the way around. And I'm really curious on how he's going to combat this, because I think he's trying to find a way to be triggered by what Crowder's saying. But I could be wrong, because he seems like he's trying to actually have a conversation. But just from his point and his stance, I would assume that he's going to try to find a way to crawl out and find a way to paint him as a villain, because otherwise then he's going to be a villain to his side. He's going to be like, oh, well, yeah, maybe they aren't really trans. So he's going to have to find a way to poke a hole in what he's saying to start getting triggered. At least I would assume. Well,
for me, it breaks my heart, because I think about the fact that, you know, the suicide rate is super high. So many of them are killing themselves. So
Why do
many
you
of
think
them
that is?
are so unhappy. Part of that's because society hates them, because of the way that so many people treat them. I mean, if you feel like I think that's part of it. I think there's certainly
people do. I mean, they're not targeted, you know, but people do hate them more than some other groups. But I don't think it's something that you should really focus on. Like, if you're going to focus on the fact that someone hates you and that you need to make them like you, you are going to have a life full of hell, because you cannot make everyone like you. Mr. Beast is a prime example of that. That motherfucker does no wrong, at least that I've ever seen. He has done not a damn thing wrong, and yet people still find a reason to hate him. If you just have a whole life to where you're trying to make everybody love you or like you or accept you, it'll never happen. It's like pissing in the wind. It's not going to work.
Mental health aspect of it. But I also think that if you feel like you're a woman and everyone around you is just constantly saying biological man,
how does the woman feel?
Biological man.
Like doctors,
that's different. I mean, okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. I don't think that it's fair to only think about the rights of women in sports without also talking about trans mental health. I mean, there's so much that goes into all of these issues.
No, I agree, but I think they're separate issues. I think that biological men, we both agree, biological males should not be allowed to compete with biological females. And sure, we can address the mental health issues. You know, it's interesting that you bring up, I don't agree with the premise that it's because society hates them. I don't agree with it because, matter of fact, minorities in this country, minorities historically have a lower rate of suicide, right? Black people have a 2.5 times lower rate of suicide than white individuals. Suicide, I don't know if you know.
That's crazy. I know that black people with black culture, like, they don't typically believe in mental health either. They are pretty strict on just ignoring it. And I've kind of become the same way recently on just, like, I've been diagnosed with shit, and I went into, like, this deep hole of just feeling like a victim and just feeling like my life's hell and I'll never be able to fix anything. And it's just, I swear, like, those titles do a lot to people, especially whenever, like, they've already been through hell, and then you're told that you can't really fix anything unless you take this medicine. It's such a, like, restraint on being able to fix yourself. It's just not fair, honestly. I don't think you should really put, because it's hard, because there are some people that have, like, some terrible mental conditions and they need to have medicine and shit like that. But I think we just throw around the word depression and anxiety and bipolar and PTSD. We throw all those words around like it's nothing. And and therapists just give it to people like, well, they diagnose people with it like it's nothing nowadays. And now everybody is depressed. And I get it. Like, depression is real. You can be depressed, but that doesn't make you a depressed person. Like, you just might be going through a hard time. You might just need to find a way to gain happiness without taking pills. Like, it's such a touchy subject, because there are some really extreme cases, but then there's a lot of minor cases, and everybody walking around nowadays is saying they're depressed and that they take these pills and yada and blah blah blah. And I swear that it's a main factor to why the mental health is just plummeting in America.
Is almost entirely a middle-aged white male problem. Also, I don't believe that they have it worse than Jews in Auschwitz, because that's a 25% attempted suicide rate. Do we believe that a transgender individual in 2022, because they can't set another women's swim meet record, is going to attempt suicide because they have a worse life than Jews in Auschwitz? They have a worse life. They're being treated worse in society than American slaves. Nowhere else can you find this high of an attempted suicide rate outside of people with severe psychiatric conditions that we address.
Right.
And in this case, we're saying, well, no, rather than address someone, let's say, who's paranoid schizophrenic, we're going to say, no, those delusions are real. Right. That's what we're doing right now. That's why the suicide rate is so high. That's why it doesn't get better after treatment. It's a very heartbreaking reality. We've tried it this way now for a couple of decades, and it hasn't yielded good results. It's yielded worse results.
So then you do think that transgenderism is a disease? I mean, or do you?
I think they, by their own declarations, there is rampant mental health. There are rampant mental health issues in the transgender community, right? They have said that.
But you think it's a disease? You think it's something that needs to be ironed out? You think that they just need to figure out how to feel happy?
I think that if someone is biologically a male, I think right now you're a man, right? And I can tell that you're a man. You can tell that I'm a man. We don't need to do all the college doublespeak here. I think for you to look down right now at your penis, and for you to go through with what it takes to cut that off, I want you to, this is a mental exercise, I want you to think about for a second what kind of a mental place you would need to be in to hate your penis so much that you have it cut off and turned into a non-functioning vagina for the rest of your life, which, by the way, will very likely prevent you from ever achieving sexual climax again. To think of the mental state that you would have to be in, genuinely put yourself there, that's not a healthy place to be mentally.
You can't argue it, man. Like, and he keeps on trying to say, like, well, you calling it a disease because it just sounds like bad. Like, it's a disease. It's got like such a stigma behind the word because it's a disease. But it's like, it's not like something terrible to have, you know? Like, it's something that you just need to accept that you have. It's not something that you need to ignore. It's something that you should just come to reality with and face it head on and try to find a solution to it. Try to find a way to fix it. If there is a way to fix it. And I don't think cutting your dick off is the solution whenever you're in a place like that, in my own opinion.
I don't know if it's as black and white as that. I think there's a gray area where it's not just about, cutting off your penis. It's about feeling better in your own body. It's about, if you look at yourself in the mirror, and you look at your f***ing cock and you're like, oh man, I can't live with this thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like me. It doesn't, who am I to say, you know what, you can't, go ahead, cut it off. I mean, who are we to stop them from doing that? And
I'm not saying you can't.
Right, I'm not saying you can't.
I just don't think it's fair to characterize it as hateful for me to say that seems pretty severe.
It seems extreme, but that also just shows how uncomfortable they feel in their body.
I agree.
I can't imagine looking at myself every day and just not feeling like myself. I mean, if you had to live every day inside someone else's body and never feel like yourself, that's hell.
Well, it's your own body.
Well, okay, it is your own body.
You just believe it's someone else's body.
If it doesn't feel like your own, if
you're
unhappy with it, if it's so bad that you are talking about, changing your body, getting bottom surgery, it is a bad mental state, but it's also
good. We agree.
It's a bad mental state, but not in the same way that.
But it's not corrected by going through with the transition. It's
a bad mental state, but not in the same way that you're saying it's a bad mental state. I do not, just to be clear, I do not agree with you. I do not want to be on your side. I am on the other side. We cannot have common ground. We might say the same thing, but it's not the same thing. That's pretty much what he just said.
Slightly worse.
I think that's on an individual case-by-case basis.
No, statistically.
And I think it depends.
The attempted suicide rate stays the same post-op. And again, it's double that of Jews in Auschwitz.
Right.
And I think that matters. I think that matters because people will throw out the moniker as you did, hate. There's no hate.
But
just like I've had people in my family who, struggle with severe bipolar disorder. I don't hate them when I say, look, you're not seeing things clearly. I've had to do that.
Right. I have plenty of homies that I've lost, not to death. Well, I have had a lot of homies that I've lost to death, but I've had plenty of homies that I've lost to drugs. I've had one homie to K2 and two to fentanyl. One my best friend I've lost to fentanyl. He won't talk to me, and I don't ever try to condemn what he does. I try to have conversation with him to tell him yo, bro, this isn't the right solution. You got to try to find a way to beat the shit. I've let him move in with me and try to help him and help him financially, help him to get a job, pretty much put him in my house as rehab for a few months. And it ended up just getting to where it was just one night where he had some problem with his girl and he just spazzed out and wanted to move out, and he moved out, and the same day he moved out, he relapsed, and it was just months down the drain that I tried to help him. And it's me trying to get him off of that isn't saying that he's a bad person or saying that he's doing something that's evil. It's I'm trying to help him get off of it because it is something that he shouldn't be on. Just like how if you're in that mental state, you shouldn't be in that mental state. You should try to help people around you to get in a better mental state to where they work on themselves. And that's with anything, whether it's drug abuse, transgenderism, obesity, the list can go on and on. There's plenty of things that people can get just immersed in. And if you can't find a way out of it, you're just going to end up being ate by it. It'll just become you. And it's not a good lifestyle to have, especially whenever it's unhealthy. Well, only whenever it's unhealthy. If you want to get immersed in something else that's not unhealthy and it doesn't affect anyone else, and you can just go on about your life doing that, like a hobby or something, then that's fine. But whenever you start affecting yourself and other people around you, you need to realize and reflect on yourself that you need to change something. And people don't do that shit no more because there's so many communities online that accept you and tell you that what you're doing is fine and just ignore everybody else. You don't have to listen to them. They don't care about you. They don't want to see you happy. We do. You keep doing what you're doing. Keep hurting your own body. Keep hurting the people around you because what you want matters the most. The groups on Facebook and social and Twitter and social media, all social media platforms are the things that are just destroying people because no matter how bad you have it, you can always find someone else that is in the same boat as you, which will give you a reason to think that you're not in a bad position.
I'd have interventions and say, this is not accurate. It's clouded by your mental health condition. not a disease. There's a difference between a psychiatric condition and a disease, an actual disease state. And I think to mischaracterize that as hate is also what creates this bully pulpit that causes real harm to women in women's sports. And look, I think you care about people. I would appreciate, though I don't demand, that you maybe recognize that I do as well. I just have a different approach to it and different solution to it. And I believe that women need to be defended just as much as other people do. And I think we agree on the third division.
Yeah, bro, that was a really good conversation. I was expecting dude to just like have a breakdown, which is usually what happens on these Change My Minds segments. But that was honestly a pretty good conversation. I hope y'all enjoyed it, because I really did. I feel honestly pretty relieved having watched that for some reason. But I hope y'all liked the video. If you did, please leave a like down below. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this video, especially this one. I would love to know what y'all thought about it, and any counterpoints to whatever I said, or to what he said, or to what the person being interviewed said. I would love to know what you guys thought about that. If you want to hit that ding for me, just in case, just so y'all don't miss any future videos. I know that my shit probably don't get recommended because I'm not that big of a creator yet. But everyone that watches my videos, I do appreciate y'all. I don't say that enough because I kind of just react to a video and end it with my shit. But I wanna start like actually connecting with y'all, because I do appreciate y'all like no other. Every single one of y'all that watch every one of my videos, bro, it means the world to me. Everyone that doesn't watch my videos all the time, but who does tune in, I appreciate y'all just as much. And if you are a new viewer, go ahead and subscribe, man. I appreciate that shit. Like, it means a lot to me. My whole channel is about just reacting, but not really just like a regular reaction channel. I want to react to controversial stuff, try to get people to come together, try to end this division that is so obvious in the United States, and try to like actually, you know, unite everybody again. We're the United States for a reason. We need to be united. But yeah, please leave. But yeah, if you fuck with me and you want to give your boy a subscription, I'd appreciate that. And with all that said, deuces.
Influence only got one life, fucked up or not, I ain't gonna lose it, I'ma use it. So please don't go stupid, I don't wanna do it. I never claimed to be a killer unless they push me to it. Nina on me, so my life got extra cushion on it. So tell them I'ma pull it out if they come pushing on me. I can't even get my money and get out the way, 'cause